Now, let's face it, my life did suck. I was extremely burnt. I went from 120 pounds to 112. I had lost almost all my skin. I couldn't move. I had tubes in my mouth and my lungs and my stomach to feed me. I hadn't been home in over 2 months, and there's still many months, years to go until I could go home. You know, my life sucked. It was horrible. We all have those most important thoughts. Even if it may not be your parents, there's still people in your life that you know you love and they love you and they care about you and you care about them. We all have things in our world worth fighting for. Not everything sucks.
What advice would you give to someone who might be struggling with the physical and emotional aftermath of a traumatic event?
That's a loaded question again. You're great at asking loaded questions. So the answer is yes, yes, and yes. So really there's like 4 parts to it. There's anger, there's depression, there's anxiety, and there's suicide. So let's talk about them all. Let's start with the beginning though, anger. Anger comes from, it's an interesting thing. It's a mathematical equation where anger comes from. Anger comes from when your life changes in a way you didn't want it to change and you couldn't prepare for it. I promise you, the next time you get angry, just step back and ask yourself what changed. And you will find something you didn't want to happen to you and you didn't expect it to happen. And that is the source of anger. And it's how we deal with life changing. And it's a completely normal emotion when you think about it, because it's such a mathematical equation that's how we deal with life changing ways we didn't want, is we get angry. And anger actually is there to motivate you through these instances, but we don't understand anger, so it consumes us instead. I look at anger as the second best emotion in the world. I think the best emotion is love. We all seek it, we all want it, we all chase after it. You know, we desire love. And love has this extremely positive side to it. But does it also have a negative side to it? You can get hurt by opening up your heart to the wrong people, can you not?
Sure. Yeah.
Right? And if you go seeking love and not know what you're looking for, you might find things that you didn't want to add into your life. But that positive side of love is so positive that we're willing to ignore the negative side. Anger is the same but exact opposite. We've all seen the negative side of anger so much, and it hurts. When that negative side of anger exposes itself, it hurts that we're afraid to go looking at the positive side of anger. But there is a positive side to anger, and it's there to move you through things. So let's explain anger. The way I look at anger is it's like filling up a balloon full of air. You put too much air into that balloon, and what's going to happen to the balloon?
Pop.
It'll pop. Right? It doesn't pop though. It explodes. You ever seen a slow motion balloon popping?
Yeah.
It is a violent explosion if you really look at it. That's what happens with anger. You put too much anger into you, and eventually it will find a way out. And that's when it explodes. They're what I call anger explosions. And we've all had them. Everyone has lost their crap at one time or another due to anger. And when you get angry and it explodes out of you, nothing positive ever comes from that anger explosion. But anger is a natural emotion. It's supposed to happen. So we got to find better ways to release it. That's where the negativity comes, is how we release that anger. And when it gets released uncontrolled, it causes damage to you. And what is happening is you have your inner circle. You have all the people in your life, right, that you love and care about. Those are the people that are in the room when you can't take it anymore. That's when the explosion happens. And when that explosion happens is you say things and you do things you didn't mean to say or do. You're letting this natural emotion out of you in an uncontrolled way, and it ends up hurting the people we love. And you do it over and over and over again, because healing is not a once in a like happens in a moment. It takes time for it to happen. And eventually your loved ones, they get tired of dealing with these explosions happening on them, and they leave. And now remember, how you need these people to help you through it. When you push them out of your life because of anger explosions, you now limit yourself on being able to get better. And it's very interesting. I consider anger to be alive, because anger, it wants what every living thing wants. It wants to reproduce and it wants to feed. Those are the 2 things every living thing goes after. And the way anger feeds is consuming you, taking all the good things out of your life. And it reproduces through those anger explosions. When you go and you throw your anger onto other people, and now they leave because they get angry. So the way I deal with anger is I take it out on things I can't hurt, because I know that anger is coming out of me one way or another. And I'll give you a great example. When COVID hit, I was having the best year of my business. Everything was booked. I was like, I had no worries at all. The future looked bright.
Yeah.
And in 3 days, I lost every single contract I had. I had no clue what the future held for me. And when this happened, I realized I'm going through something I don't know how to deal with. I've never had this happen before. So I let the emotions happen because they're natural. I let the depression, I got sad, I cried. I told my wife straight out, I don't know what the answers are. But after 3 days, I was like, enough's enough. I felt it now. Now it's time for me to move on. And now I knew the anger was going to be the next thing.
Okay.
So the way I deal with anger is I get physical. For me, I can't go to the gym and work out like the average person can because my hands are so messed up. So I go for really, really long walks. And what I do is when I'm getting physical and I'm taking that energy out on myself, not only am I improving my health, but I'm dumping that negative energy. It's something I can't hurt. And when I'm actually working out, I found it allows my mind to process what's actually going on in my life at the same time.
Yeah.
And then I'm processing, I'm actually usually finding positive things I can do.
Yeah.
And then when I'm home and I've dumped all that negative energy, I'm now able to hold on to the people I love instead of exploding on them and pushing them away.
Yeah, I really like that actually. Instead of just bottling up the anger, letting it all out at home, you're going for a walk. If you could work out, you would work out, and you're almost like burning it off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also tell people when I'm mentoring them is like, if you know you're going to lose your shit, come to me. I know exactly what's happening in the process. I understand you're not trying to hurt me. I understand that you're just letting this natural, normal emotion out of you, and you aren't an expert on how to release anger.
Yeah.
Most people aren't.
No.
So I'm like, come to me. I completely understand. And I am a safe place for you to lose your anger on. Say whatever you want. It's not going to stick. So
I'll put your number in my phone and call you up next time.
yeah, I was like, ring, ring. It's like, what the hell did you do to me? I'm going to become a YouTube sensation overnight. How to deal with anger.
Yeah. I think that advice can be really helpful to a lot of people. Maybe talk to us about anxiety next.
Let's go to depression because it's the next stage.
Okay.
Depression is interesting. I'm not a depressed person. I will tell you that straight out. But yet, at this time in my life, I was extremely depressed. And I had severe depression. It wasn't like run-of-the-mill depression. It was horrible, horrible depression. And what I found out in depression is that I took all my morals and values and everything I held cherished to me, and it threw them out the window. And now everything was possible. And what I found out is when I was depressed, I was not making good decisions. I was not seeing hope or a reason to try. And it allowed me to wallow in misery and to hide in a corner and pretend that, this was what normal life was going to be from this point forward. When people are depressed, what I tell them is, don't trust yourself anymore because you're not going to make the best decisions for yourself. You need to trust, and here's the key. You have to find someone that knows you really well and you love and trust them. Because if they know you really well, they're going to know your morals and values. But you also have to love and trust them. They have to be people that you're putting your deepest decision-making processes into their hands because they'll help you make better decisions. And it's really interesting. Like I had a magical way of taking anything positive and turning it negative. I found that when people are depressed or they're going through really hard things in life, that we say no to things in life. It's our natural responses. Hey, you want to come out for a beer? No, I can't. That's too much for me. I don't want people to see me. I can't deal with it. I'm not ready to leave the house. We find reasons to say no. Sometimes you're like, I don't even know why I'm saying no. I'm just saying no to things we used to say yes to. We have to say yes because those yeses lead to life experiences. And those experiences would enrich your life. Hiding in your house all your day is never going to help you get through depression. You need to, trust other people that you know and love to help you make better decisions and say yes to life. Because the more you say yes to life, the more you're going to live and the faster you're going to get out of that depression. Anxiety is very interesting. For me, I couldn't breathe when I was anxious. And I literally know what it's like not to breathe. When I was going to OR, so when I came out of a coma, I had a ventilator. Both my lungs were severely burned and this lung collapsed. And because of that, I couldn't breathe on my own. So they had the ventilator. And whenever I went for surgery, they disconnected the ventilator. And then the nurses, there was 5 nurses, and one of them had to give me a bag, and they'd give me my air through a bag. And every once in a while, they'd forget the rhythm of my breathing, and they would forget to give me a breath. I know what it's like not to be able to breathe. And it is the most helpless feeling in the world. And that's what I relate anxiety to.
And that was when you were in a coma, you're saying?
No, this is outside.
This is outside, okay.
Yeah. But that is, anxiety is like the most helpless feeling people ever go through. And if you ever see anyone anxious, That's literally how they're acting. Like they're freaking out because they're extremely helpless at this moment. The weird thing with anxiety, though, it's all in your head, just like it was for me. Our head is very extremely powerful, and it can create these scenarios that are harmful to us. So there are a lot of ways to deal with anxiety. One is, they say, do mathematical equations in your head. And the reason being is the mathematical equations will take your mind off of the moment, and they'll start to help your brain to think about other things. The other is breathe. If the most helpless feeling in the world is not being able to breathe, and most people that are anxious they feel like they can't breathe, breathe. Intentionally breathe. It'll take it away. And then let's talk about suicide, because that's the progressions. There's the anger and then depression. You don't just jump into suicide. You go through this process to where you get there. When I was suicidal, I saw everything as two ways. That my life sucked and nothing was going to change. Now let's face it, my life did suck. I was extremely burnt. I went from 120 pounds to 112. I had lost almost all my skin. I couldn't move. I had tubes in my mouth and my lungs and my stomach to feed me. I hadn't been home in over 2 months, and there's still many months, years to go until I could go home. My life sucked. It was horrible. And I didn't see, when I was 112 pounds and unable to move, I didn't see the ounce of muscle I was putting on every week. I didn't see the millimeter of nerve I was growing every day. I didn't see any improvements happening at all. In fact, it went 9 months, just over 9 months, until I rolled over, the first thing I actually did for myself. I didn't see any improvement. And now we're talking like I'm 2 months into my story, and I am extremely suicidal. I used to play a game in my head. If I could kill myself, how would I do it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Now, I consider everyone's had suicidal thoughts, like if I die, who's going to come to my funeral? Those kind of thoughts, those aren't suicidal thoughts. That is actually a normal thing people go through, although it's dark, but it's normal. When you start contemplating how you're going to end your life, that is a sure sign you need to reach out for help. Because your life, you're going through something right now. And I guarantee you, when you're suicidal, you will see everything sucks and nothing's going to change. The people that have ever reached out to me who are suicidal have always had one thing in common. They've all been teenagers. And every single one of them had one thing in common. Their parents hated them. Now, when you think about it, your parents are your strongest network. I've yet to meet a parent that hates their child. Although I'm sure there's some out there that exist. But for the vast majority of parents, we love our children. We will do anything for them. And if you can convince yourself that your strongest network hates you, everything sucks. And when you're suicidal, you don't see any hope. You don't see anything getting better. Nothing's going to change. And if your life completely sucks and it's never going to get better, there's only one outcome. Let's end it. It makes sense then, why people then go that route. So whenever people come to me that are suicidal, I first focus on this everything sucks thing. I'm like, but does your life really suck? We all have those most important thoughts. Even if it may not be your parents, there's still people in your life that you love, and they love you, and they care about you and you care about them. We all have things in our world worth fighting for. Not everything sucks. So I first take away that. And I'll be like, I'm an international motivational speaker, and I'm giving you my time. How can it be so bad? Not everything sucks. I get it's not easy, but it's not that horrible either. And then I look at about change. What I found about change is this. You can't stop change even if you tried. Your life is all about change. Every moment of every second of your life is changing. And if you can't stop change, all you can do is have a hand in its outcome. So why not work with that change? Yes, your life may not be completely pleasant right now. Not everything sucks, but you know what? It's not also extremely horrible. Let's hold on to those positive things. Let's see what we can do with them and work with the change. It took me 5 years, and honestly 5 years, and I was standing there and I was going through everything that I had overcome and achieved. And I'm out of the hospital and graduate from university with a distinction. I'm a fully trained safety professional. My speaking business is taking off. And I looked back 5 years later, back to when I was suicidal. And I look back and I'm like, I didn't see this outcome. Not at all. But at that time, I didn't see any outcome.
Right.
So I say work with the change.
Yeah.
And I can promise you, it will take you places you never imagined possible.
Yeah. And it takes time,
It
right?
takes time.